Hey, what is up, man? Lord have mercy. I apologize. Good God Almighty, that was like pulling teeth. You know, when you go live, you don't know what's actually going to happen until you actually get live, and then when you get live, your Mac wants to act up, and you have all these issues and technical difficulties. And man, but good God, we got here. We made it somehow. I apologize again. That was definitely not my intention. You know what this is? Season 7 of Sentell's Intel, the best damn sports podcast, period. The undisputed champion of sports podcast. I'm your host, the sensational Sentell Wadman, a.k.a. Mr. No Days Off, a.k.a. the one-man dynasty. We are back, baby. It is August 21st, which only means we are right around the corner from college football. We have games this Saturday. We have games week 0. No games of consequences, but we got Notre Dame in action. We have a top 10 team in action this weekend, USC. But we're going to talk about all of that. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you need to get on the ball, because this is going to be the biggest and best season of Sentell's Intel yet. And also, it's the season finale, the series finale. This is the last season of Sentell's Intel. I'm not no longer doing this show. This be it. But we got a long time before we start boo-hooing and crying and going on. I have a guest who's going to help me. We're going to talk about college realignment. We're going to talk about the top 10 teams currently in the AP preseason rankings for football. We're going to digest and try to, dissect those teams as a whole. And then tomorrow we'll be back. We'll do outside the top 10, give you our playoff picks, all of that good stuff like that. But right now, I want to introduce my partner, my friend. He's been here several times before on the program. He is a Sentell Intel lifer, if you want to call him that. My friend, a Cal Fall graduate, a Clemson alumni, but you can't tell by his outfit, but I'm going to get him in here. My main man, Keevy Dennis, is in the building. Give me a second, I'll have him on your screen, and we're going to get into this college football season. And like I said, we're going to talk about a lot of different things on here. Also, I can see your comments and questions that you may have pop up down here also. So be aware. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing, sir?
Doing good, man. I appreciate you having me on. I know we're working through some technical difficulties, so just hang with me. bear with me.
Hey man, this is technology, man. This is what happens when you're dealing with technology, trying to get all these different things, moving parts. And like I said, I hadn't even tested none of this stuff out, so that's on me. So, but we here. I told everybody you're the Clemson grad, but I told you wouldn't be recognized by his outfit. But, you want to kind of tell the people why at home that you are a Clemson grad, but yet you're wearing Florida Gator colors. You want to explain that to the people?
Yeah, of course. I've been a Florida Gator fan since I don't know what, maybe 13, 14, since 90. Yeah, since 95. So
97,
yeah,
96,
14
Fred
years
Taylor,
old. So
maybe.
yeah. So it's been a while. So even though Clemson was the family team and everything, if Florida wasn't out of state, then I would be a Florida Gator alum and not a Clemson alum. So there we go. There we have it.
Hey, we all can understand that part of it, because like I said, that's a financial decision. That's a financial decision. We know in-state tuition is a lot cheaper than out-of-state tuition.
Right.
Oh man! You know what? I should probably put my headphones. I might be able to hear you better. But yeah, man, let's kind of so much to get into the college football season. I said we're gonna talk about realignment, and that's probably where we'll go first. I'm gonna get your. I kind of already spoke on this. I was on with Benji Greason a couple weeks ago, 92.9, and we talked about realignment. So I'll give you your take. Let me get your take on realignment. What you feel about it? How you think about what you think about realignment?
Honestly, I'm all for it, but just like with the transfer portal, there's gonna have to be some kind of stipulations on it. Because if it's just a free for all, and then you end up with one conference just grabbing all the best teams in one conference, then that doesn't really help out college football as a whole. I mean, obviously, it's helping those teams out that joins the super conference, but there's gonna have to be some kind of control to it, which probably should have started, before teams start jumping ship like Texas and Oklahoma. So, yeah, I think it'll be good in the long run for college football, but like I said, it just has to have some kind of order to it, which I don't know
Yeah.
how you regulate that at this point, but they'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's the Wild Wild West. We've already spoke on that. Like I said on the show with Benji,
Yeah,
NCAA they have no teeth, no backbone, and then once the federal government got involved in I mean, this is thing is just a free for all. I would just love to see the power brokers, the Dabos and the Nick Sabans of the world, and all these people, Kurt Herbstreets and all those guys get together and kind of get we need to get a commissioner of college football and kind of take the Power Five schools, Power Four schools at this point, because what has happened to the Pac-12 is I hate it. I hate it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate most of the realignment. I hate it. I'm just people call me nostalgic, and I am nostalgic. I'm gonna miss Pac-12 football. Like I'm gonna miss watching those games late at night, and just like other people out there who live out there, they're gonna miss having those in-state rivals and those games you go to with your friends, driving up and down the West Coast, and I'll miss the ACC. I would be devastated. I mean, if the ACC was to go under, come on, think about it now. We grew up in the South. I mean, we
right.
watched the ACC and SEC all our lives. So imagine not having the
Yeah.
ACC anymore. Like, can you imagine that?
Oh yeah. Right. Before, even back before all the ESPN deals and everything, we was watching ACC on Jefferson Pilot. You know what I mean? So like, yeah,
Come on, man.
we had we had it back in the day. It's definitely nostalgic, and yeah, we miss the ACC as it is. If there was a breakup, but
Yeah,
they the
people
teams
saying like,
signed that they signed that bad deal.
yeah, it's one of the worst deals in the history of
Yeah,
a conference. Jim Phillips, they could thank Jim Phillips for that. You never sign 20 years of anything. You don't even sign 10 years. They sign 20 years of something.
right. It's kind of like they knew the end was coming for the ACC, so they had to guarantee something and get some kind of deal with a 20-year deal. That's what it seemed like to me. But yeah, it's
I,
still a bad deal. 20 years
It's a
is
horrible
way too long.
deal, and like I say, football is driving. Football is driving all of this, without question. Football is driving most of this, so they don't care about everything else. Basketball doesn't matter. Baseball doesn't matter. The damn sure the Olympic sports do not matter whatsoever. The student athlete they don't care about the student athlete. This is all about money and greed and power. So it's not gonna stop. I think
Yeah.
ultimately, if we don't get some kind of governing body, you're gonna end up with like two big conferences, and it's just gonna be that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah, you're gonna end up with the two big conferences, and then you're gonna have more teams in the playoffs. But everybody in the playoffs gonna come from those two conferences, and everybody else gonna feel left out. So you're gonna end up having to expand the playoffs so
Oh
other people
god.
can get
Oh
in.
my god.
So
Hey,
yeah,
like I
it's
told
just gonna
Benji,
be
this all started
it's gonna be a big
because
mess.
of
Right.
the two times that Alabama and LSU played each other for national championship. And then we feel like we gotta expand the playoffs. We can't have two teams from the same conferences. Boo hoo hoo, whine, whine, whine,
Yeah.
whine, whine. And that's where we are, and this is why we where we at now.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That
that's
definitely had a lot to do with it for sure.
That's what I know we're gonna talk about the top 10 teams, but of course, anytime you enter into a new season of college football, there's a lot of newness. So I know I haven't prepared you for this, but few new head coaches that are out there, the big name head coaches. Of course, we know we got Dion in Colorado, Hugh Freeze is at Auburn, we got Matt Rule at Nebraska. Um, I guess just kind of take me through a few of them hires, which ones you like, which ones you don't. What you think those guys do at their respective programs?
Um, I honestly, everybody that you name, I like Hugh Freeze in Auburn. As long as he can stay out of trouble, I think
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze is an
Mm-hmm.
excellent coach. He knows how to develop quarterbacks. So even he even had Liberty. Who heard of Liberty? He even had Liberty playing good football. So I mean, that's a good hire for Auburn again, as long as he can stay under the radar and out of trouble, which he shouldn't fall into any more trouble now with the NIL like that. So I mean, honestly, it's kind of a free fall with no kind of like restrictions or anything on that. So I mean, he technically shouldn't get in any trouble. But I like that. I like that hire. I like Matt Rule at Nebraska too.
Mm-hmm.
Even though your boy was the previous coach. He was a Nebraska guy. It just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
seem like he ever fit there as a head coach for what they were looking for. He just looked lost. Definitely not the same coach that we saw at UCF. So I
Mm-hmm.
think Matt Rule will do a lot better in bringing in some stability to the program. He recruits the players that he needs. I mean, if he turned Baylor into a
Yes.
decent team, then
Yes.
definitely he can do it at Nebraska as well. And then, lastly, Dion, that's definitely a good hire there. I like that Dion. He kind of went in, he cleaned house. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I want
Mm-hmm.
the players in here that want to be here, the players that I feel can do right. He brought his son over, so
Mm-hmm.
it should be an interesting season. Should be an interesting season there. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing Dion and Colorado throughout the year.
And we should mention that we bringing up Colorado in this conversation. They also moving. They are also leaving the Pac-12. They are going to the Big 12. What's left of the four
Yeah,
pack out there? They are also moving next year, so they'll be back in the Big 12. Colorado. So there's some movement there. I do like Matt Rule at Nebraska. I think he's a better college coach than a pro coach. You mentioned that already. Uh, that Scott Frost
yeah,
thing was a disaster, a straight up disaster, man. Who saw that coming? I mean, everybody
yeah,
just knew. We just all assumed that Scott Frost was going to do a great job at Nebraska, and sometimes it just shows you you should take fit over your feelings, because I think the Florida fit would have been a whole lot better for him than the Nebraska
yeah,
fit, because what he found out is you can't recruit in Nebraska like you used to, and you can't run that kind of offense in Nebraska. Pretty much, you can't run that. So he learned a valuable
yeah,
lesson when it comes to that. After all the success he had in Central Florida, which to me, that's again heart over head. He chose Nebraska because of his heart, but head he should have went right up the street and went to Florida. He already built a lot of hay down in the Florida area,
yeah,
but yeah, Colorado. I'm interested to see Dion, man. Dion got a lot of interesting strategies and technique that he does, the stuff he says. Uh, Prime is a showman. A lot of that stuff, he believes, but man, he plays up to the camera. That's what he is. That's who he's always been. One of the greatest athletes to ever play professional sports. I love his son. I mean, his son is gonna play in the next level. His son's gonna be an NFL football player.
yeah.
Now, does he
Oh,
have
yeah.
the talent to compete year in and out in a well, like I said, he's going to the Big 12. So, and Texas and Oklahoma leaving. So maybe there'll be a chance for a new big dog in the Big 12 once those two schools are gone. So, and who takes the reign of the top dog in the Big 12 once Texas and Oklahoma leave? Could that be Colorado?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why they can't step in and kind of take over. We looking at what TCU, Baylor. I mean, they've been consistently, you know, decent teams, but nothing extraordinary outside of TCU last year. They had a
Yeah,
kind of anomaly there.
they
But
kind of
yeah, I mean they got a good chance anybody to kind of take the reins
yeah
of the
they
conference.
come
So
out yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it'd be interesting, man. They open up with TCU. That's interesting. They open up with TCU now. Now obviously TCU at the same team. They lost a triple head, the 3-headed monster. They lost the quarterback, Quentin Johnston, and they lost the running back Miller. So that's gonna be a whole new different ball team. But that's a hell of a start for a first year coach to go on the road to Fort Worth against a team that was the national champion runner up.
yeah. Can we call them the runner up though after that showing?
Hey,
Can we can
look,
we
look! I
can we
told the
give them the
world.
run up?
Let me tell you. I told the
I don't
world.
know.
I told the world. I told the world what was gonna happen. I told the world what was gonna happen. They ain't on that level. They had a magical
Everybody,
season.
yeah,
I told the world you should be in TV because that should segue us right into the AP
yeah,
top 10 teams in the preseason of 2023. And you got to start at the top. And we both sit here in our Florida stuff, and I never thought in my lifetime. First of all, I never thought I had to call them the defending champions. Ever in my lifetime, I thought I had to call them the defending champions. And I damn sure in my wildest dream never thought I had to call them the two-time defending reigning champions, the Georgia Stinking Bulldogs. Two-time reigning defending champion. That makes me physically ill to say out of my mouth. But they are the king of college football right now. I will not give them no flowers, but I would call it a spade what it is. Georgia right now is the top program in America. Thoughts? Let's see. Let's kind of frame this. Okay, Georgia heading in the new season. They got a new quarterback, Stetson Bennett, who's at school. I'm pretty sure he was at school with Herschel Walker and Garrison Hurst, but he didn't graduate. So I was gonna say, he left. He going to greener pastures. Todd Monken is going to offensive coordinator. Look like they're going with Carson Beck over the 2 5-star guys they have, and Brock Vandagriff and Gunnar Stockton. So they're gonna go with Carson Beck. Defensively, they're gonna reload. We're gonna name some of the names as the season goes. Mikael Williams, they got Malachi Starks, but they're gonna have a whole new group of new guys. Believe it or not, Georgia actually rebuilding last year defensively, but we saw what happened. Just your overall thoughts of Georgia heading into the season.
The big question with Georgia is going to be kind of the quarterback, and I mean that's been a question, even with Stetson Bennett kind of taking the reins there. That's been a question in Georgia. So they return some talent on offense. I think they return with 6 starters on offense and defense.
Mm-hmm.
So and then with Georgia's defense, they play a lot of players. So, even though they only return 6 starters, they got a lot of experience on that side of the ball. So I think the defense is just going to kind of pick up where they left off. The question, definitely going to be on the offense. Who's going to be the quarterback? Is Carson Beck the guy? They still got some firepower, offense. They got Bowers, who is the best, by far the best tight end returning to college football. They got the lad McConkley, they got Buddy. Then they got a couple good wide receiver pickups in the portal. They got Ra Thompson from Mississippi State, and they got what's the guy named Lovett, Dominic Lovett from Missouri. So I mean, they should be retooling on offense, but defense is gonna be the staple of this team. So defense and running the ball, which is that's what Georgia's about anyway. So we'll see. They should be good, but
yeah.
That's the real question.
We haven't had a three-peat in college football in the modern era. Like, in the modern era, there's not been a three-peat in college football. That's the whole thing that gives me hope. That's the only thing that gives me hope. One of the things that gives me hope that Georgia does not win at all this year is that nobody has three-peated in the modern era. And the last 3 years, the AP preseason #1 team has not won at all. So that's the only thing that gives me hope and comfort at night that Georgia will not three-peat, because I personally cannot stand this. I hate it. Now, I know they had some breaks in them games, both them games, but at the end of the day, it takes some luck to win championships. And sometimes, and I said this against Bama when they played them the second time, at some point, they're going to start getting the breaks. And that's what happened. They started getting the breaks that they had been getting crushed on, previous years, losing some heartbreaking ways. I said, eventually that tide's going to turn, and when you play somebody again, hey, that's what happened. Williams went down. Alabama was basically down to nothing for his receivers at that point. Last year, Marvin Harrison Jr. gets hurt in the game. So you got to have some of these things. And then I think the most egregious thing about that game last year was Ryan Day being so conservative and not trying to get closer for his field goal kicker. So, along with being really, really talented and good, Georgia is, you have to get some breaks, and they've been fortunate, so they are the 2-time champions.
Yeah, that really shocked me about Ryan Day as well, because usually he really an aggressive coach, especially with play calling, on the offensive side of the ball. So yeah, that stunk, but hey, it's what it is. They 2-time.
It is what it is.
Back champs.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing give me comfort is that we talk about Georgia's schedule, and I said this on the show, and Georgia got a weak schedule. Well, what I said to the people who told that Georgia has a weak schedule? I said, why the schedule's so weak? Because the teams ain't no damn good. So it's not Georgia's fault that we're not where we're supposed to be at. Carolina's not where they're supposed to be at. Tennessee, Auburn, all these teams are quote unquote down. I know Tennessee had a decent season last year, but Florida's been down. Auburn's replacing a new coach. So it's not Georgia's fault that they scheduled so weak. Now they could have did some out of conference stuff, but they've done that. They've went out of conference and played teams before. Some years you just don't have that. So you're hoping that your conference schedule can be pick that slack up. But guess what? On paper, it looks like an easy schedule. But why? Because the teams on it suck.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see, man. I think the schedule gonna end up being a little more difficult than we anticipating right now, but we'll see. They got some good games in there. The South Carolina game, that's gonna be probably a little tougher than they thinking. Tennessee at the end of the season, after you go through all the rigorous SEC schedule, you playing Tennessee the last game, not knowing what kind of injuries or anything come through that. So I mean, that may be a tough game for them as well on the road at Tennessee. So yeah, it may end up being more difficult than we're looking at right now.
I think
Right now.
it always tends that way. I mean, because that's just the game got to be played. I mean, there's so many factors that go in and stuff, and people. And the larger problem is people don't know how good some of these teams are going to be. You just going off of last year. It's a lot of turnover, coaching change, so you don't really know. It's just on paper you think these teams are going to be bad, but we shall see. We'll talk about Georgia a little bit later in the program. We'll get back to them, but let's keep going down the list. At number 2 is Michigan, coming off another playoff loss in the semifinals, back-to-back playoff appearances for them. I asked, I don't know what to do with Michigan. Someone asked me, well, are they elite? We had a conversation, are they elite? But it's something missing about, I can't call them elite, even though they've been to 2 back-to-back playoff appearances. And they beat Ohio State, who we in turn would say is an elite program, right? We would call Ohio State elite program, right? Michigan has beat them twice in a row. But I just something about Michigan that they run through their regular season schedule. They've beaten Ohio State twice, but then they go to the first round of the playoff game. The last 2 years they have got embarrassed. I think Georgia did it the year before last, and then TCU is still scoring against a defense that I think was ranked number 1 going into the playoffs. So I don't know what to do with Michigan. Do you think Michigan is elite?
I do not think Michigan is elite, and that's like you say, you can't trust them. Like I don't know, like with other teams that you would think are elite, you can say, hey, they have a great defense, which you could have said that about Michigan last year until they played TCU in the playoff game. You know what I mean? So I don't trust the team. I don't know if I trust Harbaugh. He's gonna be out 3 games to start the season, but I mean it's not really any games that's gonna kind of get in that anybody should be worried about. But what's the locker room like after that? We just had our coach suspended for 3 games. What's the team gonna look like? I don't know. It's a lot of factors that play into that, but I definitely don't think they're elite. Even with what they're returning. I mean, I know they return um, McCarthy. They return Blake Corum, who might be one of the better running backs in the country. But no, I don't think they're elite still to this day.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like it's weird. Like if I see a team with the profile of Michigan, this is Michigan, and they make the playoffs 2 years in a row, you would automatically assume this program is elite or is on its way. But the way they've gotten beaten in these playoff games just gives me pause for cause. I have a concern about them. Like you say, McCarthy, Blake Corum, and his backup. I think it's Vincent. I think his backup. He had Edwards. I'm sorry, Edwards. He had like 900 yards in the play. So that offensive line is really, really good. And again, are their numbers inflated defensively because of the conference they play in? Because when they get outside of the conference and play other elite tier programs, they are getting ran off the field. Like, it's not even been close. So I don't know what to do with them. But Jim Harbaugh, he coached the 49ers back in 2011, I think, was the first year. He went to 3 straight NFC title games, made 1 Super Bowl appearance. So can Michigan in the 3rd year get to the college football playoff title game? Can they actually get past the first round? We shall see about Michigan. At the number 2 preseason ranked team. Let's move on to Ohio State. A lot of changes at the number 3 team, Buckeyes. No longer C.J. Stroud there, so he's gone. We got to bring in a new quarterback. Kyle McCord, the 5-star. He's a junior, I believe. He's battling Devin Brown, um, a younger guy. From what I've heard at Ohio State, they ain't been impressed with either one of them. Now, if either one of them can be competent, they got a boatload of treasure pieces at receiver. This is one of the Brian Hartline has completely just outdone himself over and over. You think a group that has lost Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Jackson and Smith and Jigba and on, and they come back this year with Michael Harrison Jr., they got the kid Amuku. I can't say his name. They got Fleming. They got just guys everywhere out here offensive. Trayvon Henderson at running back. But the problem with the Buckeyes lately, they can't stop anybody. They look like a Big 12 football team as a late under Ryan Day. They can't. The Urban Meyer Ohio State teams, they had good defenses. These Ryan Day Ohio State teams, defenses have been bad.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think honestly it kind of start up front. If you look at the defensive line in the Meyer era, you had like Bosa. I mean you had some studs in there, but now you can't really think of anybody on the D line that's been dominant at Ohio State. So they still got the secondary players. They still gonna be one of the top teams with DBs and cornerbacks especially. But as far as like the trenches on defense, I think that's what's hurting this team a lot. But offense, like you're saying, I mean, regardless of who the quarterback is, they got some weapons. They may have the most as far as like returning weapons. With like you said, they got Harrison, Emeka Ibigwa, whatever his name is.
I
I'm
can't
sorry
say
for
his name.
mispronouncing
I
that.
butchered
Henderson is a
it.
stud. Even Mayan Williams, man. Mayan Williams look really good
Yeah.
out there too. So I mean, they got some talent on that side of the ball. So they should be really good regardless of who the quarterback is. Because nothing else what we learned is that whoever the quarterback is at Ohio State, they're gonna throw for a lot of yards. They're gonna throw for a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, we
Yeah, I'm with
assume like
you.
we just assume at this point like
Yeah, so it
certain things gonna be the way they are. Like we just knew Ohio State
should be
because
fine.
we didn't know who C.J. Stroud was out of Justin Fields. We didn't know, and then he put up 2 monster seasons. So we just assumed this 5-star guy gonna be good. But he's gonna have to understand he gotta play well because defensively
Right.
they can't stop anybody anymore. So he gonna have to put up them kind of numbers. But the good God Almighty, weapons are just tremendous on the outside. Um, if you're just tuning in, you're watching Sentell's Intel, the best damn sports podcast. Period. I'm being joined by Kiwi Dennis. He's rocking the Florida Gator Gill. I am rocking. We are objective people. Don't let the outfits fool you. We are objective people. We don't have no preconceived notions about any team on this list. Don't worry about that. You're gonna get complete objectivity when you rock on this show right here. So let's keep going down the list of the top 10 preseason ranking. At 4 is Alabama. Another team with a lot of question marks. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback. Will it be Jalen Monroe? Will it be Ty Simpson, the former 5-star? This team has a lot more question marks. Now they have number 1 recruiting class in the nation, so they got some young talented players. But right now it's a lot of unknowns. You got Kool-Aid McKenzie back in the secondary. At receiver, Jermaine Burton, who would transfer from Georgia, Ja'Cory Brooks. Them guys are really not dynamic players that we used to custom to see in Alabama. I don't know what to expect out of Alabama. And did lose Jahmyr Gibbs, who transferred in from Georgia Tech. So what are you expecting from Bama? There's a lot of question marks down in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, like you said, I can't think of like a Bama team that had this many question marks heading into the season. Like the team I think of that come to mind is the team when Blake Sims was named the starter. That team wasn't that talented as far as like weapons and offense. But I mean, yeah, I don't know what to expect from this team. Honestly, if I'm looking at it with what they're returning, um, without any solid lead on a quarterback going forward, because you said that Ohio State fans were saying they didn't like any of those quarterbacks. The Alabama fans, they hate all these guys. You look up any Alabama Twitter feed or message board, they really don't like any of these guys. So I don't know what to expect. If honestly, if you ask me if any of these teams should not be in the top 10, then I'm probably gonna say Bama. If you
Yeah,
ask me any of these teams should not be ranked in the preseason top 10, I would probably more than likely go Bama.
And I probably would tend to agree with you. Now, also, all the players, they got 2 new coordinators. Bill O'Brien is gone. I forgot who the guy they brought in, and then they brought in Kevin Steele to coach defense. Kevin Steele's a dinosaur in this game. Man, Kevin Steele ain't been good in ages at defensive coordinator. They got him. They brought in my guy from Notre Dame is the offensive coordinator. I can't think of his darn name. Tommy Reese is the offensive coordinator. He left Notre Dame. So they got a new coordinator plus all these new quarterbacks. And also, Nick Saban was so unhappy with the quarterback play during the spring. They brought in a transfer from Notre Dame, Tyler Buchner or whatever his name was. He came along with Tommy Reese. So that's how bad the quarterback play was in the spring.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting season for Bama.
That's different. At 5 is Bama's SEC West rival, LSU. But be honest, I'm really high. Brian Kelly showed me a lot last year. That team got better. That's when you know you got good coaching. When your team improves from game 1 to game 10, this team ended up winning the SEC West. A lot of people don't even realize that LSU won the SEC West. They bring back Jaden Daniels, who had a remarkable season. You figure the second year in this system, they got Neighbors, who's an outstanding receiver, and they've got perhaps the best defensive player in the country, and Harold Perkins, the second-year linebacker. Oh my God, this guy just leaps off your page. I'm really high on the Bayou Bengals, man. What are your thoughts on LSU?
Yeah, I really like, especially on paper, looking at LSU, because you can only think, with another year in the system that Jaden Daniels is going to be better. Yeah, Hal Perkins pretty much at most points last season seemed unblockable, so he's going to get bigger and stronger. They returned 12 starters, I think 8 on offense and 4 on defense, so the offense should definitely be better. Even though they were really good last year, the defense is probably going to be, what we figure out, how or who LSU is going to be, is through the defense. But you got Harold Perkins. They got another. He's a sophomore this year, but Hassan Smith, he played D tackle. He looked really good last year. So they got some pieces on defense. So we should see a much improved LSU team coming up this year.
Did you mention Mason Smith?
And that's saying something.
Did you mention Mason Smith? Did you mention him? Because I didn't hear if you said Mason Smith or not. Because he got hurt in the first game of the season last year. He was a big call to their defense. That? Mason Smith. Yeah, he got hurt at the beginning of the season last year. He missed the whole season. He got hurt.
Stud.
But he's really good. So you get him back. I like that. I like Brian Kelly showed me. Like I said, I didn't like the hire at first. Because I thought just a fit geography, his demeanor with down here in the South, but he can flat out coach football. He showed me that because, like I said, no one saw LSU being as good as they were last year. And they got better every single game. They got better. Jaden Daniels got better every game he played. That's a mark of a good coach.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Moving on.
Excellent hire.
Yeah. Who is that? Well, we got 1, 2, 3. Number 6 is USC, another team where I'm high on because why? Caleb Williams, the Heisman Trophy winner. I love quarterbacks. Lincoln Riley came in there. Those guys averaged 41 points a game, but that ain't, that's fine and good. But if they want to be a championship contender, they have to get better defensively. They gave up 29 points a game. They gave up over 400 yards a game. So they're going to put up a boatload of points. But, can this defense be good enough to get them into the college football playoff?
Yeah, that's the big question. Kind of like with a lot of the teams that we're talking about, like Ohio State. We're looking at LSU. The defense is going to be the question mark. And same thing with USC. They got plenty of firepower on offense. They got Caleb Williams looking to have a big season out of Mario Williams as well, wide receiver there. The defense returns 8 starters though, so I mean that they got some experience returning. So that at least should make them a little bit better. But is it going to be enough to push them towards a playoff push? That's going to be the big question.
and the Pac-12 is loaded. Now we're making jokes about the Pac-12 about the disintegrate, but they have 5 teams within like the top 15, 20 teams. They got 2 in the top 10. This is a loaded conference, especially offensively. So you're gonna have to be really good to get, because you're gonna have to win this conference to ultimately get to the playoff. Can USC stop enough people, get enough stops? I really love Caleb Williams. I really love Lincoln Riley, what they do offensively. But man, oh man, I watched them play defense last year. It was hard to watch. Like, it was, nobody could tackle in space, blown coverage everywhere. They just refused to tackle people. Like, it was like flag football. So you wonder, Lincoln Riley come from Oklahoma. That's kind of his MO. They score a lot of points, but they don't stop anybody. So we'll see what USC can do when it comes down defensively, because that's going to decide their season. At number 7 is an interesting team. It's Penn State. It's the Fighting James Franklins. Now, here's my issue with Penn State. They got some talent this year. Everybody's high on Allard, the quarterback. Singleton's a really good running back. They got an offensive lineman who's a preseason All-American. I can't say his name. I'm not going to try. They have a defensive player who's an preseason All-American King. But here's my thing with them. And I've told this before, and I said this on the radio. Expectations kill Penn State. If you go look at the James Franklin era, every year they have a good year, the next year they have a bad year. Bad year followed by a good year. Now that's expectation when you're a top 10 team who won 11 games. Can James Franklin go back to back and have great season at Penn State? Can he do it?
Yeah, going back to what we were talking a little bit about Michigan. Can you trust them? Like, I don't trust I don't trust that they can be consistent enough to have back season, because this has been the track record. This is what we've seen. This is what we have based off of the time that he's been not just there, but the time he's been coaching. Period. I mean, you look at Vandy, it was kind of the same thing there too. So I mean, going back to even those days, it's been a consistency. They do have a new quarterback. They are high on Aller, but we'll see. Because he's replacing a long time starting Sean Clifford, even though he was probably below being just a guy. But we what we're looking at with the offense, they should be better. They probably have one of the best returning offensive lines. Not just the linemen. I know they have a preseason All-American with linemen, but overall collectively the offensive line is probably one of the better units. They should be able to run the ball really, really well. The defense, they got King and Abdul Carter. They got some pieces on defense and some studs. So I don't know if I can trust them. On paper they do look like they got a solid team. Definitely looking at like a 10-win team on paper from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule sets up nice. They play Ohio State, Michigan, but they late. It's like, I think late, and they play them. They get a week in between each one of them. So the schedule sets up really good for them. I just have a hard time, because this is where they lose games. Well, how? Why? How do you lose that game? Like, and this is kind of where they do that stuff. You're like, here they go again. So I gotta see it to believe it. I like James Franklin a lot, so I want him to succeed, but he got to show me the consistency, especially when the expectations are high, because this is when they fall, and he does his worst work is when they have expectations. So we shall see what comes of that. Before we get to 8, 9, and 10, again, let me say to my audience out there, welcome into Sentell. It's the season 7 premiere. I can't believe we got 7 seasons out of this. This is insane. When I started this show, I was a lot younger and good looking, but hey, we're still here. This is the best damn sports podcast, period. The undisputed champion of sports podcast. I'm being joined by Kiwi Dennis, and we're just talking about the top 10 AP preseason poll. We talked about realignment a little bit earlier. If you want to leave a comment, leave comments. I can see those. I'll answer any questions or any comments that you may have. I will read it aloud. Also, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel. I don't know what you're waiting on. You should be already subscribed by now, but that's neither here nor there. Just get to your damn job. Let's get on to 8, 9, and 10 on this top 10 AP preseason poll. At number 8 is, I'm going to call them the IT team. Florida State Seminoles. They are the it team. They are the preseason darlings of America. This is the it team right here. Really turning a boatload of talent on offense and defense. They've killed the transfer portal. Mike Norvell had just went ape fool in the portal. Last year was Trey Benson. It was Johnny Wilson. This year is Keon Coleman, Fentrez Cephas, defined cornerback out of Virginia. Just a lot of things to like. Travis, Jordan Travis is back at quarterback after a really tremendous, really great season. Breakout from Johnny Wilson. We talked about him earlier. Jared Verse is one of the best defensive players in the country. Should be a top 10 draft pick. Hey, man, it's a lot to like. We wear these Florida colors. There's a lot to like about Florida State coming into this season. Are you buying the hype?
All right. So if you're talking about hype from like being a national champion, then I'm not buying that hype. Now, if you're talking about maybe winning ACC, losing maybe 1 or 2 games, then I can see that. But I just don't think this team is enough to win a national championship. But they got a solid team, like you said. They return a lot. They won the portal probably 2 years running, winning the transfer portal. So got a lot of pieces. You mentioned Coleman and Cypress. They also got Jaheim Bell from South Carolina, Braden Fisk, the big D tackle. So they should be better as a team as far as like winning the ship. I don't know about that. They got Trey Benson. He came on a lot towards the end of the year after he stopped, maybe splitting so many carries. So, we got the other 2 running backs that were in the mix kind of transferred out. So he should be better getting, the boatload of the carries. Jordan Travis, from what we're looking at, he should be better on his ascension, but he still has to find a way to play good in the big games. So that's going to be what the season depends on from Florida State. Can you get Jordan Travis to play well in the big games and not just when he's playing the cupcakes, and that's on the ACC schedule. So that's going to be the big question for the team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not that high because I've seen this team play some bad games last year. Like, people forget that they lost to Wake Forest. They lost to NC State. That happened. People seem like they just forgot all about that. Like that didn't happen. That happened. And Jordan Travis looked bad in those games that they lost in. Not to mention the Clemson loss. I'm not going to kill you because you lost to Clemson. But you lost to Clemson like a decade straight. You got to go there. And which brings me to my point about they have a tough of opening month of anybody in the country. They open with LSU and they go to Death Valley. Now, that's going to me, that would determine whether they're not actually playoff contenders or just going to be a 10-win team. If they go through that stretch 4-0, then okay, you got a shot to make the playoffs. But if you come out of anything other than undefeated, then I just think you're a 10-win team. You should get through the ACC schedule pretty much unscathed. I really don't see any traps in this ACC schedule. Miami is a joke. NC State, Louisville changing coaches. Just not really a whole lot going on in the ACC Atlantic that should deter them. But another thing about this transfer portal that I want to bring up about Florida State, because going into last season, because I want people to understand that Johnny Wilson was not Johnny Wilson that Florida State got. People want to think everybody don't transfer for the same reasons. People just assume like great players don't typically transfer to a program. That's not usually what you're getting. You may get a guy who feel like he's not getting no opportunity, and so Johnny Wilson, go look at his numbers before last season. Nobody thought that was going to be Johnny Wilson or Trey Benson for that matter. So they hit. So now you got a whole new group of transfers now. That got to happen again. Those guys got to hit. So you're counting on a lot of transfer to hit again because you hit last year. Now you brought a lot of guys in this year. Now will they hit? Now that's the question mark for me about Florida State. But other than that, I think they're gonna be really good.
Yeah, they should be decent. We'll see. Like you said, that the September is gonna be the determining factor. September itself. So
September. Yeah, that's it. I mean, you
we'll
get through
see.
that 4 and
We'll see
0,
what they
then
made of after that.
you get through that 4 and 0, they could be looking at a run to a playoff period because you look at it, even if they had one loss. I think they played Clemson twice. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but I think they played Clemson twice. We'll talk about Clemson here in a
Yeah.
minute. We're about to go to them. At number 9 is the aforementioned Clemson Tigers. Boy, we talked about Bama having a lot of changes. We talked about Georgia with a lot of changes. Clemson had a lot of newness to itself right now coming into this year. Got a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback. This team on the outside at receiver, this is what I think they're lacking it the most coming into the season. They had some great guys come through here. Sammy Watkins of the world, the New Hopkins of the world, the Tay Bryants of the world, the Justin Rosses of the world. But this group right here, I'm not too sold on, and I'm not too sold on the quarterback at this very moment. I hear a lot of hype about Cade Klubnik. Now, you watch Clips a lot more than I do. Thoughts about Cade Klubnik heading into the season?
I'll be honest. From everything that I've seen so far from Cade, especially the game against Tennessee in the bowl game, I can't tell from that body of work that he's going to be any better than DJ. A couple of things though that do factor into that is that Garrett Riley's offense will work better for Cade than it than Brandon Streeter's offense. So I think he's going to be a lot better. He's used to the kind of spread them out, run around and kind of sling it, playing like little Johnny Manziel
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. So that's the kind of stuff he's used to from his high school days. So I think this offense will fit him better. I think he's definitely going to improve from what we saw with him last year. But like I said, um, it's going to be hard to to convince anybody based off of what you saw from him that he's going to be better. You mentioned the wide receivers, that has been a big thing. So it's not really that they don't have the same talented players, right? You still got 5 stars, 4 stars out at wide receiver at Clemson. It's just that they're not being developed the same way. So you don't have wide receivers that are coming there and just kind of having an opportunity to get off. And I think a lot of that dealt with Clemson losing Jeff Scott, who was the wide receiver coach. He is back in some capacity with the team, even though he won't be serving as the wide receiver coach. So I think that should help out with the receivers because I'm told that he's going to be helping out as an analyst and with some kind of role in recruiting. So that should help out because he's supposed to help out with the receivers. So that should be that was a big portion of the Sammy Watkins, the Martavis Bryant and those guys developing at Clemson. So that's going to be big. But they do return a lot on defense. This team, they lost a lot on defense as far as like from the front seven, but with Barrett Carter returning, with Jeremiah Trotter returning, the secondary they all have another year in the system. They should be better on the back end. Front four maybe not so much, but they got some guys that they came in like Peter Woods. I'm hearing rave reviews about him, so he should be a good one. The true freshman, he came in the spring and he's been making a lot of noise. So we should see a much improved Clemson team. Not saying that they're gonna be back in national championship contention, but they should be much improved, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
It's crazy. Clemson has got to this point. Let me tell you how crazy it is now. What we just said. We say we killing Clemson, rightfully so. They look horrible. They look terrible. They won 11 games and won the ACC. That's the standard that has been built up at this program by Dabo Swinney. They won 11 games, won the ACC, and we're sitting here talking about as if they are the worst team to ever play football. That's when you reach this level. I'm with you. I think Jeff Scott helps. I think he's been a consultant with the receivers. But let's be clear about something about Clemson. Todd Boyd laid the foundation. I'm always gonna give Todd Boyd his credit and his fame and his props because he laid the foundation for what was to come. I told people Clemson was that was a melting pot. Clemson was a ready to explode from a football sense once they got the right people in there. But let's be honest. They had Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence back to back. Let's just call it what it is. They had two generational quarterbacks back to back. Texas didn't have they didn't have two Vince Young back to back. Florida didn't have two Tim Tebow's back to back. That's something that just doesn't happen. Alabama has never had two generational quarterbacks. They didn't have great quarterback play for a long time. So, a lot of success is tied to the fact that Clemson just had two generational quarterbacks, man. With the great receivers go along with that. I'm sure, and I think they had better coaching because I don't think the coaching has been nearly as good in the last several years. And that's on Dabo because, he made some questionable decisions. But you had Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. So you got spoiled from the quarterback play. We thought DJ was in that realm after he comes in against Notre Dame, and you just think you're not going to drop a beat. And he didn't turn out to be what we thought he was going to be. But I do think Clemson should be better offensively. I don't think Cade is the two guys I just mentioned, he's not even in that league. I don't even think he's Ty Boyd's good. So if you think that's the guy you getting, then you are sadly mistaken. But they are going to be good because they are talented. So we shall see what the Tigers do. Let's move on to the last team in the top 10. Then we'll talk about some other things. Washington, the Huskies. I mentioned those two Pac-12 teams in the top 10. Michael Penix was sensational last year. 4,600 yards passing, if I want to say correctly. The receiver is a preseason All-American, Uduzier, I want to say. He had a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns. He had 1,400 yards, 1,100 yards, and then 7 TDs. But he was great last year. I don't know what they're doing defensively, but offensively, Michael Penix is going to put himself in the Heisman conversation because he's that good. So what do you expect to see from the Washington Huskies out there in the Pac-12?
I expect to see, similar to what we see from USC, which it seems to be a common theme with Pac-12 teams. A whole lot of offense, not a lot of defense. So that's going to be the big key there. Like you say, Michael Penix Jr. Local kid from Tampa, right up the road from where I'm from. So definitely hear a lot of talk about him around this way. So good to see him doing good. He should, like you say, he should have a Heisman type year. I mean, he passed for 4,600 yards and 31 touchdowns last year. You can only expect that to improve. He got a good wide receiving duo like you mentioned. They do at least have some defense, especially on the defensive line. You're looking at Braylon Trice, who should be a really good player on the defense.
Glad you brought him up.
I can't name a player on USC defense, so I can't take not one player on that defense. But
I'm glad you brought. Yeah, Trice is a really good player. I'm glad you brought him up.
Season in the Pac-12.
Yeah. Okay, before we go on, let me say. Thank everybody for tuning in out there. If you're watching, we got a few little comments. Jeff Gilbert, he's a noted Clemson fan. He, I guess he was commenting about talking about Clemson because he's definitely a Clemson guy. He says it may take some time to implement the offense, and it will. I mean, if you think Garrett Riley just gonna come in and they're gonna look like they looked last year at TCU, you're sadly mistaken. That's not gonna happen. So it's gonna take some time to get that offense going at Clemson. So we at this top 10, and so every year, the preseason top 10, you can set your clock to it. Somebody in this group ain't gonna finish in the top 10 at the end of the season. That's just the way it is. Last year we had 3 teams that was ranked in the preseason top 10s that did not finish the season in the top 10. Obviously, a couple of them was unranked. Last year, A&M, which had no business. I told people for the season start, they had no business being ranked in the top 10. 0. They had no business being ranked at all. They was number 6. And Oklahoma, and then there was Oklahoma, who had a horrible season first year under Brett Venables. That was a bad play. And then Baylor was number 10. They didn't finish. So that's 3 teams. That's 3 teams. So I'm gonna give you an opportunity to look at the top 10. I'm gonna give them back to you: UGA, Michigan, Ohio State, Bama, LSU, USC, Penn State, FSU, Clemson, Washington. Which one of those teams, one or more teams, you can name more than one if you want to, will not finish the season ranked in the top 10?
I'm I'll start with Bama because it's too many question marks coming coming from this team. So I honestly I don't think this team is as good as some of the other teams here in the top 10. The schedule look okay, but again, like you're saying, they gotta they get Texas at home, which is going to be a tough matchup for them. They get Tennessee, LSU. I mean, their schedule is tougher than Georgia's schedule. So I just don't think this team is that good. Whether on paper or in person. And they still trying to find a quarterback who, like you said, they brought in the transfer in the summer. So it's definitely not looking good. Looking good there. But yeah, I start with Bama probably because of the toughness of Penn State's schedule. They probably won't end up in the top 10, but everybody else has a favorable schedule, so I would say everybody else has a real good chance of ending up in the top 10.
So you go Bama, Penn State. I agree with you on Bama, man. I just don't know what we're gonna get. I mean, history tells us they should, they always end up having a good season, but it's just too many question marks. The new OCs, the new Kevin Steele. Kevin Steele is awful. Kevin Steele is awful. I would not hire Kevin Steele, no way. But Nick Saban's run out of coordinators to hire. I mean, he hires a new coordinator every second year. So at some point, you spin the wheel, you get Kevin Steele. I'm gonna go Washington just because I take the Pac-12 is really good. USC, UCLA gonna be good. Utah's consistently been good. So I just think the schedule is going to catch up to Washington. So I think they don't finish in the top 10. Penn State, boy, this is expectations. I just don't. I can't see it. They're going to lose a game or two, and you're going to look at it and go, how in the hell did they lose to that team? And I'll just tell you, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. Oh, yeah. It is. I just see it. So that's just where I'm at with those top tier teams. I'll just stick with those two. We had 3 last year that didn't finish in the top 10. But I'll just stick with those two. I think everybody, like you say, everybody else schedule sets up well. The returning players. So I'll just go with those two for the time being. Man, that hour went by fast. But it was a good hour. It was a fun hour. We're going to be back tomorrow. Maybe have another guest, but I know my man Keith will be here tomorrow. We're going to talk about teams outside of the top 10. We're going to talk more about the Heisman potentials. And then we're going to give you our 4 playoff teams and our eventual national champion tomorrow. So all that will be tomorrow. Going to thank my man for joining me and gracing us with his presence. Any final words, my man, before we get out of here?
Yeah, FSU is still going to go down to Florida. Florida's going to beat Florida State, so that's going to ruin their national championship chances, even if they do go 4-0 in September.
Bulletin board material, you heard it. I will see you tomorrow, my man. Appreciate you coming through.
All right, have a good one. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, that was Keevy Dennis, man. We've had a fantastic first show of the season. Sentell live on YouTube, the best damn sports podcast, period. The undisputed champion of sports podcast. Let's see. Matthew Harper says, good show. I appreciate that. Anytime you say good show, I appreciate that. Make sure you tell people to subscribe to the channel. Jeff Gibbs say, enjoy it. Anytime. I love that. Love it. But I'm going to get out of here. We're going to be back tomorrow. Like we say, we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to discuss some more college football. Maybe even do a little bit of NFL talk. But until then, I have been your host, the sensational Sentell Wideman, a.k.a. Mr. Noise Off, a.k.a. the one-man dynasty. This has been Sentell's Intel. Check me out tomorrow. We're going to try to do better than we did today. We have technical difficulties, but we're going to try to do better tomorrow. So see you again tomorrow, world. Peace. I'm out.